What up, everybody? We got the Death Scourge right around the corner, probably sometime in December, and I am asked every single day when I open Discord in the morning, the first question I see is, should I build up War Dogs, OG Wakana, or Bionic Avengers for the War Scourge? Today, we seek to answer that question. We're going to go through their strengths, their weaknesses, where they fit in the game. I'll give you my ultimate recommendation, and I'm going to throw a curveball at you. Let's get into it. Let's start our journey today with the Wakanda team, talking about their strengths. And one thing we all know in this game, speed is king, and they are the kings of speed right now, especially with these new War Dog characters. So, with the speed up they get from Shuri on spawn, you can bet the Wakana team will be better at dealing with certain situations. If there's a Zemo on spawn in a node, if there's a Nico, things like that that can really cripple the Bionic Avengers, Wakanda is going to be able to handle better. So keep that in mind when you're deciding on your team. Next, they got the defense up. So, Bionic Avengers spawn with defense up. That gives them a slight edge against Wakanda, except Shuri's going to give defense up so quickly, they might as well have it on spawn. So, I give the nod still to Wakanda because when you factor in that M'Baku can also give defense up, which will give energy to Shuri, and Shuri can kind of give defense up very often. Like, if you've ever gotten stuck in that Crucible hellscape where M'Baku's healing, Shuri's giving him defense up, M'Baku's taunting, that's giving Shuri energy to give more defense up, M'Baku's doing more healing, and then you time out. That's what I'm talking about. So the fact that they can keep giving defense up, it gives them the ability to understand when a big damage wave is coming at them and brace for it. Where Bionic Avengers, if it doesn't happen on spawn within the first 2 turns, you know, Let's continue on. Spot heals. So, Bionic Avengers heals when energy is given to their characters. That's cool. It's very useful. But if somebody gets absolutely destroyed because they just get tunneled down and they're sitting in red, it takes a while for those heals to add up. Whereas Shuri's ultimate, bang, 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 back to full life. It takes 4 times with that T4. So I do give the spot heal advantage to Wakanda in that sense. Snowball. So if you who are not familiar with gamer lingo, snowball is when you get a kill and then you get a little bit more powerful, so you get to get another kill, and it just keeps snowballing. It's the snowball effect. You know, it gets bigger, more unstoppable, and that's exactly what Black Panther and the new Black Panther do. Black Panther, when he gets kills, he just gives himself full speed bar. He's ready to go again. Black Panther 1 million, if he's charged and a non-minion dies, he's giving, I think, 10% at 50% and another 10% on kill. Something like that. But what it's doing is it's snowballing your Wakana team to keep them going. Keep them taking turns, keep that energy flowing so that Black Panther can keep going. It's a good fit. So their snowball definitely goes to Wakanda. So where are these teams used before we get into the weaknesses? Well, the War Dogs version are used on War Offense. And they are going to be a top tier War Offense team. They're going to be taking out the likes of new Tangled Dorm teams, Darkhold. Probably very easy to beat Gamma after a sack. Stuff like that is in high demand. OG Wakanda, Crucible A+ team. They're fantastic. Even in this Age of X, Wakanda has proven just to do so much damage so quickly that they can still hang. So, depending on what mode you prefer, might depend on what variation of Wakanda team you decide to go in. I'm not giving a recommendation here. I'm telling you what I'm doing. And I have built up both versions of this team. I've built up Black Panther 1 million. I've built up M'Baku. I've built up Killmonger. I will build up Nakia. I just will, because I compete in both of these modes at the highest level. My ideal 5-person team for the Death Scourge, and no guarantee this is going to be the static team. It could shift when we see the nodes. My ideal team, though, Okoye, Black Panther, Shuri. Those 3 are the core for both of these. They're safe to build. My 4th and 5th picks, Black Panther 1 million, 1 War Dog, and M'Baku, 1 OG Wakanda. If you are only building these characters for the Death Scourge, that's not super smart because you're half building for each mode. Now, that depends where your competition is in War and in Crucible. Maybe they'll get away with it just having that kind of half War Dog, half Wakana team. I'm not sure. I think, mechanically speaking, that 5-person team on paper is the best. So take that as you will when you decide what you want to build. It, of course, is going to depend on what we see on the nodes, right? And I'll be able to share my thoughts with you right away after the Scourge happens. But I don't know. Do you like War? Do you like Crucible better? Do you want to say modes be damned? I just want to invest in whatever's best for the Death Scourge? I'll let you decide that. So what are the Wakana weaknesses? Momentum loss. We talked about snowballing, but momentum loss is a real thing too. Is your enemy wave spawning with defense up? That really hurts the Wakana team. Is there a team members like Young Avengers out there who are getting deflex at certain thresholds, defense up at certain thresholds, death proofs at certain thresholds? There's lots of characters that do that, right? We also have like a Lady Deathstrike. Star-Lord T'Challa, I think, does it. Kate does it. Well, she's part of Young Avengers. Wolverine, Sabretooth, I think they get death proof, stuff like that. Stuff that'll stop you from getting kills and stop your snowball. That's momentum loss. So are the nodes going to be filled with characters like that? I don't know. You know, wait to be seen, I guess. And then debuffs. So another reason why Young Avengers really mess with Wakanda, they do lots of buff flips, and they do offense down with Squirrel Girl, and defense down with America Chavez and stuff like that. Well, Wakanda really only has the one cleanse from Shuri's ultimate, which doesn't happen enough, and it only cleanses one debuff. So if we have nodes that are filled with enemies who do lots of debuffs, and we're not killing them before they get to do their debuffs, Wakanda's going to struggle. So keep that in mind. Let's go ahead and move on over to the Bionic Avengers. So what are their strengths? Control. I just kind of talked about it. Wakanda lacks control. Viv Vision alone has blinds. She has ability block. She has offense down. She gives deflex. Vision, he gives offense downs. He gives ability block. Deathlock, he gives an ability block. Hulkbuster, he gives offense downs. He gives slows. Iron Man extends everything and gives defense down. So much control. Wakanda, I think they get slow from Black Panther, some bleeds. Defense down from Black Panther 1 million. Offense down from Okoye. And that's about it. It's just two different ballparks. The Bionic Avengers definitely have the control advantage, which is big. So if we're doing difficulty where it's too big to one-shot things and can't snowball, Bionic Avengers will pull ahead. Sorry, I didn't hit pause there. Let's go back to the barrier. So yeah, barrier. The Bionic Avengers get so much barrier from Hulkbuster. Everything he does, especially if he's a striker, is just covering you with barrier, stopping you from needing those spot heals where Wakana does kind of edge them out. Well, if you're not losing life because you have shields, you don't need spot heals. So Bionic Avengers definitely have a lot of good barrier coming from that Hulkbuster. Next, set up and explode. Yes, so something that Wakanda struggles with, we talked about, is defense up on spawn. Well, between Deathlock giving offense up, and then Vision clearing 2 buffs with his ultimate, and then Hulkbuster, Iron Man, and Viv just demolishing waves with their offense up and their unavoidable abilities, they get a huge nod there. Their wave destruction ability, basically, is much greater than the Wakanda team. Now, in Scourge, are we going to be blowing up waves? Are we going to be tactfully destroying certain members so waves drop in one at a time? I don't know. Depends on the nodes, right? But set up and explode definitely goes to the Bionic Avenger team. Energy spam. Yeah, even outside of raid, guys, the Bionic Avengers are spamming energy to each other. I think there's only 3 points of energy that are locked behind raids, but there's about 5 or 6 that are active everywhere. So there's lots of energy, which lets the Bionic Avengers keep rolling, keep doing their controlling effects. We see it in raids, but again, you get a little bit extra in raids. So it's going to be interesting to see in extended fights that are not like War and Crucible, how the Bionic Avengers energy spam is going to fare out. I honestly don't know, but it's definitely a strength. Where is this team used? Well, raids every single day. Then they're a War offense or defensive, kind of B- team. They destroy Web Warriors, but Web Warriors are no longer meta in either mode. depending where you play, I suppose. But raids, every day. Probably the most resource-rich mode in the game. Hard to beat that. So what are the weaknesses? They're so slow. They are so slow to get off. Again, if we have a Nico out there who's going to flip the spawn up defense up, or a Zemo who's going to just strip it and give slows and everything, your Bionic Avengers might get taken out before they get to take a turn. Speed is king in this game, and they are a very slow team. And then, Scourge point liability. We talked about the energy gain they get, but that might work against them, because we've seen in other Scourges how some of the things cause energy distribution to give debuffs, to give slow, to flip defense up, to give ability block, whatever the case may be. We've seen deflex cause stun. Well, you know, Viv Vision's given deflex all over the place. So they might be a Scourge point liability. You literally may be limited on the amount of Scourges you can do if you only have Bionic Avengers. That's just a fact. It's a fact we don't know either, though, because we don't know what kind of Scourges they're going to be. They've changed them up every time and time again, right? So we'll have to wait and see. But they definitely work against some that we've seen. So who do I build then to have maximum success in the Death Scourge? Well, it's Death Scourge. We got to have a death battle. Who's going to win? Iron Man, Black Panther. Iron Man uses Unibeam, and Black Panther's dead. Okay, so if you don't have Bionic Avengers built up, you need to build them up for raids anyway. So they're going to be the smartest team to bet on. Wakanda and Wakanda War Dogs, whatever version you're going to go with, is just going to be a benefit. You need to have your Bionic Avengers built up just for this game in total. Having the mutant raid section team with Archangel is going to be fantastic. But then if you can't do tech because you didn't build the Bionic Avengers, what are you doing? So, Bionic Avengers, I think, even without their use in raid, still, or at least on par with Wakanda, depending on what the nodes bring, to the point where I think Bionic Avengers edge out. But there's something we need to talk about. We learned something from the War Scourge that we should be applying to this Scourge. And that's nodes 5 and 10 are not the entire Scourge. In the War Scourge, the skills section was the hardest section. People spent thousands of resources, millions of resources to make sure that they were actually able to get through these. Talking T4s, ISO blues in the millions, gold to level up characters they never thought, like Hawkeye and Taskmaster and Kingpin. You know, Underworld was pretty new then, but people started investing heavily into Kingpin and Taskmaster and doing some fortifier nonsense to be able to get through the nodes. So it's great that we know Bionic Avengers and Wakanda are there. We know their strengths, we know their weaknesses. They're both good teams. They both have their place in the game. But we don't know the other nodes. So if you really want to be prepared for the Death Scourge, build up your Bionic Avengers, build up your Okoye, your Black Panther, your Shuri, and at the very worst, if you don't end up needing them in the Scourge, then you only have to build up 2 other characters. You'll have an A+ team in either War Offense or in Crucible, depending on what your interests lie. But hoard your resources. After you've done that, hoard your resources. Have 1,500 to 2,000 T4s on hand. I know for a lot of you, that means you need to start hoarding now your T4s, because you may only get 200 a week. I'm just stating facts here. 20 million to 25 million gold, plus as many training materials as you can get your grubby little hands on. 2 to 3 million blue ISO ions. If we have a section, say, Hero Tech, and Bionic Avengers have to be used there because the rest of the hero tech, like Guardians, sucks. Unless they get reworked, like Tana suggests. Who knows? You might have to use Bionic Avengers in more places than they can handle. And you might have to have your Wakanda team built up. Wakanda team takes a lot of T4s. Maybe it'll be something completely different. Maybe, I don't know, global bio. And you're going to have to build up, well, that would be Gamma, I guess. But there's support and controller. Maybe you'll only be able to bring support and controller characters into one section, and to have a functioning team, you're going to have to build up characters you never invested in. My point is, if you really, really, really want to be prepared for the Death Scourge, you need to be hoarding. I said this last time, I'll say it again. This is Marvel Horde Force. If you want to be prepared for these Scourges, you got to be ready to spend when they come after we've seen what the nodes are. I know that reality sucks, but it is what it is. I hope you enjoyed this video, and goodbye.